The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Welcome to Vinnie Politan Investigates. It's the biggest case on our docket here at Court TV, the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. It was a crime that shook the community and shook the nation. A cold-blooded killer on the loose. Investigators worked long hours, following every lead, including surveillance videos from all over town. They made an arrest, but there's no direct evidence in this case, just a series of circumstances, which is why prosecutors must bring their A game, as the suspect and his attorneys are conceding nothing. This will be an epic courtroom battle. I've been covering the story on my weeknight show, Closing Arguments, since the murders, and what you're about to see are some of the most important moments from that program as I investigate the University of Idaho student murders and take a closer look at the surveillance video and the timeline.
In the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death inside their off-campus home. Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, all gone. The brutal crime shook the community and touched the nation, setting off an intense manhunt for a killer. Investigators from the Moscow Police Department joined forces with the Idaho State Police and the FBI, following every lead, every tip, and every piece of evidence. That investigation took them across the country to Pennsylvania and led them to this man, a grad student at a neighboring university. He was back inside a courtroom in Moscow, trying desperately to have his indictment thrown out by the judge. Tonight, we have the latest from the courtroom, plus we take another look at the route investigators say the killer took, retracing his path and looking at surveillance video from that night. Does it show the killer's car, and does it lock in the timeline of this murder? This hour, we continue our investigation of the Idaho student murders.
March 2025 is what they're targeting as a date here. That's the earliest this trial is going to happen. Our understanding, this thing could take 3-4+ months of testimony, everything else. But remember what I said at the beginning. Prosecutors need to bring their A game, need to be able to lock down the timeline, lock down this defendant. One way they're going to do it, or attempt to do it, is through surveillance video. And joining me tonight from Portland, Oregon, podcaster Gray Hughes, who you can watch on YouTube at Gray Hughes Investigates. Make sure you check it out after this program tonight. Check out his channel. It's pretty amazing, the in-depth investigations he's done on this case and on many of the other big true crime cases. So, Gray, you've done some incredible work here involving a surveillance video from that night. Before we get to it, though, I just want to set things up for the folks at home so they're prepared for what they're going to see. And I think you agree with me that it all starts with the affidavit that's been obtained by all of us. So let's take a look at that, the affidavit. Videos, and this is key, videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of the suspect vehicle number 1, they're saying that's the defendant, starting at 3:29 a.m., ending at 4:20 a.m. Suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leaves via Walenta Drive, okay? Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time, and this is the significant time, at approximately 4:04 a.m. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping, turning around in front of 500 Queen Road, number 52, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When Vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road and King Road, where it can be seen completing a three-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Suspect vehicles next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. That's establishing our timeline. Let me show you on the screen what the video is going to look like from this surveillance. And you see the timestamp on there. That's significant, 11:13. This piece of the video from 3:31, 3 seconds a.m. Now, let me show you the map of the route that the suspect here may have taken. Take a look at the loop. You can see where the crime scene is. That's the house. The red is this looping way you can get around the neighborhood, and then you've got to go in the neighborhood. Okay? That's significant. Now let me show you where the security camera footage you're going to see is from. So, points of interest. Crime scene is the house. 500 Queen, number 52 is like an apartment where there's a turnaround. And then you've got 1330 Linda Lane security camera. That is the significant positioning of the camera, and the red is the route that we believe the suspect vehicle takes. All right, great. Did I get all of that correct?
You nailed it.
Coming up next.
Here it comes around doing the exact same thing again. And this is interesting because 3:57 is right around the time that perhaps a DoorDash delivery was made, around 4. Each time he goes behind there, though, he stops and probably waits for a few minutes watching through the window to see if the lights are going to turn off. This is my opinion. And when the lights aren't off yet, he drives away to kill more time without sitting there and then comes back again. That's my opinion.
Now, you were there, so if the DoorDash driver shows up, they're not going to be going past this particular camera.
They would just probably pull into the front parking lot of 1122 King Road. And see on that map right there, right above crime scene, just to the northwest of that is that one building right there. That is the 1122 King Road, 1112 King Road camera.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
There's been a lot of questions about the white car that we've been interested in. We're looking for that car because we believe through our investigation that that car was in the area during the time of the murders. And we also believe that the occupant or occupants may have seen something. They may not know they have seen something. So we specifically want to talk to them, and we want to know who they are and what they might know or might be able to contribute to the investigation.
We started looking for video the day of the crime. Officers on scene, before I even arrived, had identified certain residences in the area that had video cameras. We know just from past experience that security cameras, doorbell cameras, and the like are very, very commonplace now. And that's a part of our standard procedures to start looking for a possible video source in and around crime scenes. So we started the day of the crime. And then that expanded as we got more investigators to the area for assistance, and we started putting together teams. And one of our team's sole job was to go through the King Road area, associated neighborhoods, and eventually the main thoroughfares in the city of Moscow, trying to identify videos, video cameras, etc., and then contact those business owners, contact those residents, and ask for copies of that video.
Catching the accused Idaho killer was a combination of forensic evidence and surveillance video. And the videos are what really established the timeline in this case. Gray Hughes went back to the scene and drove the route he believes the killer took. Here's that part of our conversation. Let's put up the first video, and I'll let you take over. I think this is the first one where you're in your car driving part of the path. So tell us what we're watching.
Yeah, this is 500 Queen Road. The main building is right here on the right. And this is what it looked like from the driver of the white Elantra's point of view, driving back here. And this is what it looks like. And then you take a right, and now I switch it over to daylight here so you can just get a better view of it. And then right back there to the left is where the camera is on that building over there. And this is that little space. And you right here some surveillance footage at 3:31. That was a little short clip there, but it shows that vehicle making this exact route right here. And then it comes around, and look where this ends up at. Each time it made this loop. At 331, you take a right here, and you could just park right here on this corner, and you could see right into Madison Mogen's bedroom right there.
Oh, wow. On the top right part of the screen there. That was the house.
Yeah.
Wow.
On the left side of the screen, it's right there. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now let's take a look at the next piece of video. This is pass number 2, I believe, at 338.
Exactly. This is the second of the 3 initial passes. So at 338, you can see the light as it's coming down that narrow corridor that I was driving on. And then you'll see the lights show up, and then it comes around the corner, and it does the exact same thing again. And each time it leaves on Willanta Drive and does that loop all the way around. But between loop number 2 and 3, however, there might be a different route that he took because there's a 17-minute gap instead of 8.
So as you're doing all this and you had driven the route, are the times matching up for you?
Oh, absolutely perfectly. I even did it live streams. I go, everybody right now, pretend it's this time. And we drive around and it's like, boom. I mean, exactly everything lined up.
All right, let's move ahead now to 3:56 and 45 seconds.
And this is the third pass. So again, there's like a 17-minute gap in that one. It's possible it showed up at a mobile gas station because there's a 3:45 image of perhaps a white Elantra there, but we don't have that in this show tonight. So here it comes around doing the exact same thing again. And this is interesting because 3:57 is right around the time that perhaps a DoorDash delivery was made, around 4. I think it might be a little bit before that, though. And I think each time he goes behind there, though, he stops and probably waits for a few minutes watching through the window to see if the lights are going to turn off. This is my opinion. And when the lights aren't off yet, he drives away to kill more time without sitting there and then comes back again. That's my opinion.
Now, you were there, so if the DoorDash driver shows up, they're not going to be going past this particular camera.
No, they would just be right. They would go in front of the 1112 King Road camera, but they would just probably pull into the front parking lot of 1122 King Road. And see on that map right there, right above crime scene, just to the northwest of that is that one building right there. That is the 1112 King Road, 1112 King Road camera.
Okay, so when this case goes to trial for prosecutors, obviously they can have this surveillance video, but they'll have other video from other cameras along the way to try to tie this all together. But again, from you comparing these videos to that affidavit, to driving it yourself, things are matching up pretty consistently for you.
Yeah, it matches up absolutely perfectly. These are the initial 3 passes that we just discussed. And then I guess we'll be showing, there's like on the 4th pass, there's an aborted pass, and then it turns around, and then it finally finishes it. So we'll see that here in a second.
Still to come.
So he did the 3-point turn at Queen and King. Now he's actually going quite a bit faster. I timed these. He's really hustling. It's almost like he noticed something. It's his time now. He's going to get there. And he comes around the corner, and look what time it is. 4:07 and 41 seconds or so. I think he parked at 4:08. All right. And then at 4:08, probably exits the vehicle sometime after that. And then at 4:20, it leaves at a high rate of speed. But interestingly, in between 4:08 and 4:20, a knife sheath was left inside the house on Madison Mogen's bed that contained the DNA of Bryan Kohberger, who also drives a 2015 white Elantra. Like right there, that's almost where you'd be parking, just to the left a little bit. You could see right through that window.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison and Kaylee.
He was stalking them. He was hunting them.
You could tell there was something off about him.
A quadruple homicide in Moscow, Idaho, it's just unheard of.
This is our home. This is our university. This is our community.
These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students.
This was a violation of everything.
From the surveillance video, it seems like the vehicle the suspect may have been driving was circling around the house where the Idaho students were killed. The car made several passes around the home, but the fourth pass seems different. Here's more of my conversation with Gray Hughes.
So this is at 405, and on the affidavit it said it shows up in the area at 404, which is actually on Taylor Avenue, and it comes around, and then at 405 and what is that, 33 seconds or so, it comes back here, and then it turns around right here, right in front of Queen Road, 500 Queen Road, number 52. It's exactly what it says on the probable cause affidavit. So right here, it's turning around. You can actually see the car right underneath the AM
Right,
there,
yeah.
backing up.
Pretty clear.
Yeah, it's clear, and I've actually done an overlay with a white Elantra image, and the window shape is exactly the same.
So this is a turnaround, but what's going on here? Obviously, we're not inside the head of the driver of this car, but this is different than the other passes.
Yeah. So this one, you wonder, when he drove by, did he see something that was concerning, and he wanted to go back and check it? And he was about to turn around or park right in front of 1122 King Road. That's the house where the murders happened. But he didn't do that, and then he continued on to Queen and King, and now look he's coming back. I guess we're repeating that part.
Yeah, this is the repeat of, just so folks can see it again, because this is different than the other passes, and here you get the best look at the vehicle. Again, as you said, right under where it says AM, that is potentially the killer's car here.
Yeah. And amazingly, Bryan Kohberger owned a 2015 white Elantra.
White Elantra. All right, now let's get to the final pass. Again, the timing here is very significant as well as we move to the next video, starting at 4:07.
Right, so he did the three-point turn at Queen and King. Now he's actually going quite a bit faster. I timed these. He's really hustling. It's almost like he noticed something. It's his time now. He's going to get there. And he comes around the corner. And look what time it is, 4:07 and 41 seconds or so. I think he parked at 4:08, all right? And then at 4:08, probably exits the vehicle sometime after that. And then at 4:20, it leaves at a high rate of speed. But interestingly, in between 4:08 and 4:20, a knife sheath was left inside the house on Madison Mogen's bed that contained the DNA of Bryan Kohberger, who also drives a 2015 white Elantra.
And this is exactly how prosecutors have to lay this out for the jury, because you don't have a confession here. You don't have you have a witness who sees someone in a mask. I don't think the surviving witness can significantly identify the person by the face because of the covering. But this is the type of evidence that a jury understands and then kind of shifts it onto the defendant to try to explain it, or are they going to say it wasn't me behind the wheel of the car? Now, 4:08 to 4:20 is the window of time where everyone believes the murders took place. The one thing you said I found very significant, though, that he was moving quicker. Whoever's driving that car was driving quicker in that last final pass towards the house. Adrenaline is rushing. It's go time. To me, that would resonate with the jury as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's exactly what was happening. It's like 60% faster. I mean, it's really hustling. If you watch the other ones, he kind of trickles around and watches, but that one is just boom. He's going to park. He saw that maybe the lights were off. He wasn't waiting anymore, and then bolted down the bank through the sliding glass door, and I think likely probably went to Madison Mogen's room first.
Right.
That's my opinion, but
And again, you've been there. Where he's parking, very close to the home, and you're going to go, it's not the front door, you're going down a hill, sort of the side, because the house was built into like the side of a hill.
Exactly, yeah. Just right up there to the left there is where you would park. Kind of where that truck is, a little bit further up on the left there.
Yep.
You could see it right back behind there. I did a 360-degree video where, have you seen those where you can look around in all directions?
Yes.
And so it's kind of interesting when you place it up there, you can just look around and see all the angles that he would be seeing. Like right there, that's almost where you'd be parking, just to the left a little bit. You could see right through that window.
Unbelievable. Gray Hughes. It's Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. You go on there, in-depth investigations like this, day after day. Gray, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and putting these pieces together for us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me on, Vinny. It's always fun.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
The crime scene was gruesome. 4 young friends stabbed to death, killed for no reason at all. Then after a manhunt, a suspect was arrested. But this guy seemingly had no connection to the victims, which led all of us to ask the same question. Why? Why would someone do this? There are experts who spend a lot of time trying to figure out that question, trying to get inside the minds of killers like this. I've been covering this story on my weeknight show, Closing Arguments, since the murders, and what you're about to see are some of the most important moments from that program as I investigate the University of Idaho student murders and take a closer look inside the mind of a killer.
The other 2 roommates were there at the time of the attack?
All the information that we have from our investigation is that yes, they were.
Okay, but they were unhurt.
That is correct.
So is there any explanation as to why it took so long then for someone to call 911? You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the 911 call didn't come until noon?
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there. We don't know why that call came in at noon.
4 were killed, 2 more were in the house. One of them actually saw the killer. One was downstairs, but one was on the same floor as 2 of the murder victims, Ethan and Xana, and saw the killer, saw those bushy eyebrows. Let me read for you the affidavit from this witness roommate known as DM. She was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonzalez playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the 3rd floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Gonzalez say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." DM stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." DM stated she opened her door for a 3rd time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Wow. Wow. Why was she spared? Let's bring in our experts. Joining us from Jacksonville, Alabama, forensic death investigator, host of the Body Bags podcast, and professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, Joseph Scott Morgan, and psychologist, researcher, expert on violent crime, and the author of The New Evil, Dr. Gary Brucato is with us. And in Portland, Oregon, psychologist and author of The Minds of Mass Killers, Understanding and Interpreting the Pathway to Violence, Shavaun Scott is with us. Welcome to everyone. Thank you for being here. The witness who is there, like face to face is the way she describes it. Gary Brucato, what are your thoughts about why she may have been spared here.
It's important to emphasize that we're entering into the realm of total speculation here, but we should remember that if Kohberger is the culprit, he had described online being someone who experienced states of dissociation, that under intense emotional stress, he would sort of blip out of reality a little bit, zone out. I have suspected that it was dissociation under the stress of that evening that led to leaving the sheath, that probably led to the zoned out walking out of the house. I think that this was an intense, extremely adrenaline-soaked emotional experience, and he probably was dissociating a little bit, hence some of the mistakes that were made. It's also possible with this kind of an individual, if he's guilty, that there may have also been some quality of enjoying being the arbiter of who it is that lives and who dies. Because remember, with this type of offender, there is a little bit of a godlike striving where you feel that you have the power over things like that. But I suspect it was about dissociation.
Joseph Scott Morgan, something else that we're learning now. Kaylee's parents were describing the room today, that the bed took up most of the room, that Kaylee was seemingly trapped inside there. Your thoughts about what we know about that crime scene and now getting a little more information about the layout of that room?
I think one of the adjectives she used was that it was a very tight space. There's not a lot of room to kind of move around in that environment. And this idea of this poor young woman being trapped, I think is rather accurate here. You begin to think about this tight space. You've got this alleged individual that is rather tall. He could dominate over both of these young ladies in this environment, and there's not very far that you could escape to outside of his reach. In addition to that, if they're laying on the bed, they're at a disadvantage. I would urge anybody the next time you're on your bed, and I've thought about this quite a bit, to try to move in a quick manner. It's very difficult to get out of kind of a sunken position, and not to mention, maybe you're coming up out of a dead sleep, maybe you've had a couple of beers that evening, and you've got somebody that is in there meaning to do you ill will, and they are completely lucid in this moment. They have their faculties, they're purposed, they're going in there planning an attack. Matter of fact, all the way to the point where they're going to show up with a K-bar knife.
Shavaun Scott, something that we were discussing in the prior segment with Gray Hughes was watching the suspect's vehicle in the videos, making several passes, loops around this house. But on that final loop, right before the time of the murder, going about 60% faster. And we're speculating, we're thinking, well, maybe is it the adrenaline of the moment, you think? That he's made that decision, it's go time?
Yeah, probably so. Adrenaline explains a lot of things in those kind of situations. And sometimes, the circling around could have been the mental rehearsal, the getting geared up for it, doing the planning, exactly what I'm going to do, and then finally making the decision, now's the time.
Coming up next.
There would have been an enormous amount of stalking and planning and fantasizing. The evening that had been picked to go in to commit this would have been like D-Day. It would have been a day that was planned, plotted out, methodically imagined, fantasized about very intensely.
Back to the Court TV podcast.
The mind of a killer is often difficult to understand. It's complicated, irrational, and so different from ordinary people. But my guests have spent a lot of time studying this behavior, and in this part of our conversation, we try to understand the accused Idaho killer. Dr. Gary Brucato, how much planning do you think this suspect could have done? I mean, we've had reports that he had made many trips to the area previously. Do you think, how does the mind of a killer work? Do they spot someone and then kind of wait for the moment to get the courage to do it? Or is it just to figure out the plan on how to do it?
Well, certainly there are a lot of different types of killers, but with the type of offender I think we're dealing with here, there would have been an enormous amount of stalking and planning and fantasizing. And the idea was that the evening that had been picked to go in to commit this would have been like D-Day. It would have been a day that was planned, plotted out, methodically imagined, fantasized about very intensely. And the idea would be to go in and cherish it so much that there would probably even be trophies kept the way that we would keep a memento from an important day in our lives. This is the day that this individual, I think, finally played out a long-standing fantasy of sort of taking out what he had wanted to do toward probably one individual. And I think the other people, unfortunately, either bedeviled him by being there unexpectedly or were simply, for lack of a better phrase, collateral damage in a situation where there was a targeting of probably one particular individual who was the object of intense stalking and fantasy. I will not be surprised if the electronics eventually yield an individual where there was a sexualized undertone to the fantasizing, because it's very typical, and that this is a person who would have probably even done things like studied TikTok videos to learn where windows were and doors were and the kinds of movements of the individual and where they went and what their habits were, so that there's a false intimacy that develops where you actually believe that you know this person and that you know everything about them. And then finally you consume and control them forever by taking their life.
Joseph Scott Morgan, that studying I think is significant here too, because of if you look at the house, it's not intuitive the way he entered this home. Like the parking lot and everything's right in the front there. That's not where he went.
Yeah, it to me it describes, and I have to agree with Gary here. There's one, and Gary mentioned TikTok just a second ago, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was that TikTok video that all of these kids put together inside of this dwelling. Do you guys remember that? And they were like in the main room. It seems like it was adjacent to the sliders, and it spins around for a moment, and they're the roommates are taking turns mimicking other roommates in there, and it's fun, it's jovial. But in that moment, you can actually see the staircase where it's ascending in this environment, and you can see doors down the hallway. You kind of get a quick glimpse of an insight, a very intimate insight into the lives that were being lived inside of this dwelling, and that's quite chilling from a social media standpoint to me, because not only do you have that big bank of windows on the back, where the car may have parked, and you can voyeuristically look in there, but then you have the inside of social media and stalking and looking in there, and because this is not an easy structure to make your way around in if you're going in blind. That's the big thing. It's got all these weird angles and this odd staircase that originates down at the bottom on that rear parking pad, and then it makes these turns going back up. How are you going to be oriented to that environment in the dark? It smacks of preparedness to me. It always has.
Still to come.
He likes to be right, and that conversation did go on for quite a while, and he wanted to know the difference in the laws between Idaho and Washington. And, the police officer was very congenial, and he was very polite and congenial, but he was going to argue the case. He did like to be right.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
The man accused of murdering the 4 University of Idaho students is a bit of a mystery. There isn't a lot of information or recordings of him speaking. But here, as we continue our investigation, we take a look at the accused killer speaking to police before and after the murders.
I am Officer Loangus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so I
was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you run the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep. Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No. Mm-mm.
I feel like right before I made the turn, there was someone who like made a right. They didn't have their, their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
Yeah, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines. Like there's one white line and there's another one in front. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't. When you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 1 second. You're just supposed to wait behind the white line. Drivers do it all the time, but
it never even occurred to me that was actually something wrong. But well, except for the fact that I was blocking the crosswalk, which is why I went through.
And states vary a lot from laws. Like Pennsylvania might not even have that law, but in Washington we do.
I'm actually just from a very rural area, so we just don't have crosswalks.
Oh.
Unless I visit an area where there are crosswalks, and then it's not very frequent.
Yeah.
I do apologize if I was asking you too many questions about the law. I wasn't trying to
No, not at all. Like I understand you're not from here, so if you don't, a lot of people don't know a bunch of laws. Like I only know it because this is what I do. But if you're ever curious on any more laws, just RCW, and they can be hard to read because it's in like legal language. But hope that helps.
Definitely.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Definitely, you too.
Thanks.
Shavaun, what do you think there? This is before any of this happens, and if he's the person that did it, it's shortly before all this, but just this conversation with police.
He likes to be right, and that conversation did go on for quite a while, and he wanted to know the difference in the laws between Idaho and Washington. And, the police officer was very congenial, and he was very polite and congenial, but he was going to argue the case. He did like to be right.
He absolutely did. Now, let's take a listen to another interaction with police. This is on body cam. This is after the murders take place. He's pulled over in Indiana. Remember, he's coming from Washington State on his way to Pennsylvania, gets pulled over in Indiana, and has a little bit of a bizarre conversation with the officer who pulled him over.
You right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
So you're coming from Washington State University?
Yeah.
And you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Gary Brucato, your thoughts about this conversation? I've always been fascinated by it. Like, he's in Indiana. He's talking about being from Washington State, and he's asking where he's going, and he says, we're going to get some Thai food. Like, there's better Thai food out on the West Coast, I think, than there would be in the middle of Indiana. No offense, Indiana, but kind of bizarre.
Well, there are two things that have always jumped out to me about this. One is that you get the sense of a person who interpersonally is awkward and doesn't have enough interpersonal imagination or empathy to kind of guess that you could tell that story is ridiculous. It's like a kind of a lapse in social judgment that immediately jumped out at me. And the second thing is that he's decidedly cool. People who are of a more commonplace psychology who commit offenses think that every officer speaking to them is coming to put the cuffs on them, or that every knock at the door is somebody coming to arrest them when they have a guilty conscience. But it is sort of chilling to see that, because if this is an individual who, not long before was literally soaked in the blood of 4 people that had been killed, there's something very disturbing about the detached, mechanical, matter-of-fact tone that he's able to keep when an officer of the law is talking to him, instead of having the emotional kind of nervous, jittery reaction most of us would have who have an active conscience or a fear of getting in trouble. So that always struck me as a little bit peculiar. It's a little too mechanical.
Joseph Scott Morgan, what are your thoughts about this accused killer, both when we kind of heard him talk and seen him, and his background as well?
Yeah, as far as his background goes, and now I'm looking at this through the eyes of, somebody that works in academia, and I've always thought, out of all of the criminology programs that there are in the northeastern corridor of the United States, Pennsylvania included, I think there's like 4 Ph.D. level programs in the state of Pennsylvania. Why does he choose to go to Wazoo? Why is it that he chooses to go to Washington State? Who was it that he was going to study under? Because anytime you pursue a Ph.D., it's not necessarily you're going there for the lovely scenery. You're going there specifically in pursuit of sitting at someone's feet who is an expert in a particular field. And within that construct of criminology, why Washington State? I've always been fascinated by that choice. I'm sure it's a fine school, but I think my question is, was his purpose to go there and study under someone specifically that is conducting the research that he's interested in? Remember his background at DeSales, and he studied, there under a number of people, including our friend Vinnie, Catherine. And so I'm thinking, why Washington State? Out of all of the places that you could have chosen, why there? I want to know who wrote him the letters of recommendation to get into Washington State. When you apply for a PhD program, there's a ton of paperwork that you have to fill out. I want to know who recommended him and who exactly was his faculty advisor, and what was their purpose? Has he put forth a statement of purpose yet? Now, he's very early on.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. The accused Idaho killer has maintained his innocence from the beginning. He hasn't taken credit for these murders. As a result, it will be up to our system of justice and a jury of 12 to decide if he did it. The only way the accused Idaho killer will get convicted is if prosecutors can piece together their circumstantial evidence in a way that's easy to follow and makes sense. If they bring their A game, it seems they could do it. But like every trial, it's not going to be easy, and the defense will fight every piece of evidence. The nation will be able to watch this trial when it happens right here on Court TV. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks for joining the investigation.